Prior to development of portable anti-tank rocket weapons, infantry forces possessed limited means of engaging armored vehicles. According to pre-war military doctrine, infantry defending against tanks relied primarily on anti-tank rifles, towed anti-tank guns, anti-tank mines, and close assault with explosive charges or grenades. Anti-tank rifles represented the primary portable infantry anti-tank weapon during the 1930s. Examples included the German 39 7.92 mm, caliber effective penetration approximately 25 mm at 100 meters. The British Boys anti-tank, rifle 55 caliber and 14.5 mm, effective penetration approximately 23 mm at 100 meters, and the Soviet PTRD -41 14.5 mm, effective penetration approximately 25 mm at 300 meters. These weapons weighed 35 to 40 pounds and required two-man crews. By 1942, anti-tank rifle effectiveness had been negated by increased armor thickness on newer tanks. German Panzer III and IV tanks featured frontal armor of 50 to 80 mm far, exceeding anti-tank rifle penetration capabilities. The weapons remained useful only against lightly armored vehicles or when targeting specific, vulnerable points vision slits. Tracks. Towed anti-tank guns provided more effective anti-armor capability, but suffered from tactical limitations. The American M3 37mm anti-tank gun, adopted 1940, could penetrate approximately 61 mm of armor at 500 yards, but weighed 912 pounds and required a vehicle for transport. The later M1 57mm anti-tank gun, adopted 1943, improved penetration to approximately 76 mm at 1,000 yards, but weighed 2,810 pounds. Both weapons required several minutes to deploy from traveling to firing position and could not be rapidly relocated once emplaced. Close assault tactics approaching tanks with explosive charges, magnetic mines, or bundled grenades required extreme courage and frequently resulted in high casualties. According to post-war studies, infantry attempting close assault on tanks suffered casualty rates exceeding 80% per engagement. This method was considered a desperation tactic rather than a viable anti-tank doctrine. The fundamental technology enabling portable anti-tank weapons was the shaped charge, also called hollow charge or Monroe effect. Discovered in the 1880s by American chemist Charles Edward Monroe while conducting explosives research, Monroe observed that explosives detonated with a hollow cavity-focused explosive energy in a specific direction rather than dispersing omnidirectionally. The military application of shaped charges was developed during the 1930s. According to weapons development records, Swiss Henry Mohaupt conducted extensive experiments demonstrating that lining a hollow cavity with metal, typically copper, created a focused jet of superheated gas and molten metal traveling at velocities exceeding 20,000 feet per second. This jet could penetrate armor steel far, exceeding the explosive's diameter. By 1940, multiple nations had developed shaped charge anti-tank grenades. The technical challenge was delivery. Shaped charges required precise standoff, distance from the target to achieve maximum penetration. The explosive jet needed space to form before striking armor. Additionally, shaped charges worked best when striking perpendicular to the target surface. These requirements made rifle-launched or thrown grenades less effective than theoretically possible. The U.S. Army Ordnance Department's rocket research program during 1942 was minimal, consisting primarily of Major Leslie A. Skinner, U.S. Military Academy class of 1924, and Second Lieutenant Edward G. Lehigh University graduate, 1940. According to Army records, the program operated at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, with extremely limited funding and equipment. Major Skinner had maintained interest in rocketry since adolescence's 1915 experiments with homemade rockets, which accidentally set fire to a hospital building at Fort Strong, Massachusetts, had been curtailed by his father, but the interest persisted through his military career. By 1940, Skinner commanded what was essentially a one-man rocket development program with no clear mission beyond general research. Lieutenant Ole was assigned to Skinner's unit in 1941 following his commissioning at 24 years old with a degree in engineering physics. Ole possessed theoretical knowledge but no practical weapons development experience. According to program records, the two officers initially focused on adapting shape-charged grenades for rocket delivery. The technical challenge was the rocket motor's exhaust. Small solid-fuel rockets could propel shaped charge warheads effectively, but the rocket motor produced a dangerous jet of flame and hot gases, extending several feet behind the launcher. Any soldier firing such a weapon would suffer severe burns from backblast. Early experiments caused burns to test subjects even when wearing protective clothing. The breakthrough enabling practical rocket-launched anti-tank weapons occurred in spring 1942 at the Indian Head Naval Proving Ground, Maryland, where Skinner and Ohl had relocated for testing access. According to development records, Lieutenant L observed a discarded 60 mm electrical conduit tube and recognized its potential application. Ohl's insight was that enclosing the rocket motor inside a tube would protect the operator from backblast, exhaust venting harmlessly out the rear, stabilize the rocket during initial acceleration, improving accuracy, and enable simple aiming via iron sights mounted on the tube. The tube needed to be approximately 54 inches long, sufficient length for the rocket motor to complete its burn before the projectile exited, while remaining portable for a two-man crew operation. The prototype was assembled rapidly using available materials. A 60 mm tube matching the diameter of the shaped charge grenade they were adapting, a wooden shoulder stock, and improvised sights bent from wire. The electrical ignition system used dry cell batteries to fire the rocket motor. Testing in May 1942 demonstrated successful function. The tube design eliminated backblast danger while maintaining accuracy and effectiveness. Technical specifications of the initial M1 launcher included overall length 54 inches, weight approximately 13 pounds, tube diameter 2.36 inches 60 mm, iron sights adjustable to 300 yards, electrical firing system using battery power. Following successful demonstration at Aberdeen Proving Ground in May 1942, Major General Gladian M. Barnes, Chief of Research and Engineering, Ordnance Department, authorized immediate production. According to procurement records, Barnes observed the demonstration and personally test-fired the weapon, impressed by its simplicity and effectiveness. The production contract issued to General Electric Company specified delivery of 5,000 launchers and 25,000 rockets within 30 days on extraordinarily compressed timeline for a completely new weapons system. General Electric established production lines at its Bridgeport, Connecticut facility. Engineering teams simplified the design for mass production while maintaining functional characteristics. Modifications for production included replacing the wooden stock with stamped metal, improving the iron sights, adding safety mechanisms, and standardizing dimensions for interchangeable parts. The electrical system remained battery-powered to 1.5-volt dry cells, providing ignition current. Production designation was Launcher, Rocket Anti-Tank 2.36 inch May. According to production records, General Electric met the 30-day deadline, delivering 5,000 M1 launchers by mid-June 1942. This represented one of the fastest weapons development and production programs in U.S. military history, from initial concept to fielded weapon in approximately 6 months. The nickname Bazooka, after comedian Bob Burns' musical instrument, was adopted immediately and became universal, despite official designations. Initial combat deployment of M1 Bazookas occurred during Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French North Africa commencing November 8, 1942. According to distribution records, approximately 600 launchers were allocated to British forces in Egypt prior to Torch, with additional quantities shipped to American forces participating in the invasion. British testing of bazookas against captured German Panzer III tanks demonstrated effective penetration of frontal armor. British commanders concluded that North African desert terrain offered insufficient concealment for effective bazooka employment. The weapon's maximum effective range of 200 to 300 yards required operators to approach tanks across open terrain where any movement was visible for miles. British forces largely stockpiled bazookas without extensive combat use. American forces during Operation Torch encountered distribution and training problems. According to command reports, General Dwight D. Eisenhower discovered on the eve of invasion that no American soldiers had received training on bazookas, despite their presence in supply depots. Officers had to learn weapon operation through trial and error after landing. Early M6 rocket ammunition suffered reliability problems. According to after-action reports from Tunisia, many rockets failed to ignite when triggered, while others achieved insufficient thrust and fell short of targets. A few rockets detonated prematurely in launchers, causing casualties. Despite these problems, American soldiers who successfully employed bazookas reported psychological advantage. Infantry finally possessed weapons, enabling them to engage tanks offensively rather than merely evading them. Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Sicily, commenced July 9th to 10th, 1943, with airborne operations preceding amphibious landings. The 82nd Airborne Division, commanded by Major General Matthew B. Ridgway, conducted combat jumps with the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, commanded by Colonel James M. Gavin, as the primary assault element. Airborne operations were disrupted by high winds and anti-aircraft fire. According to divisional records, many paratroopers landed far from designated drop zones. By morning of July 10th, Colonel Gavin had assembled approximately 250 paratroopers near the town of Gela. His mission was to block German counterattacks against the invasion beaches, where U.S. 1st Infantry Division was landing. On July 11th, elements of the Hermann Göring Panzer Division attacked toward the beaches. This Luftwaffe armored formation included Panzer III and IV medium tanks, Tiger I heavy tanks from Schwer Panzerabteilung, Lung 504, and supporting infantry. According to German operational records, the division's objective was destroying the beachhead before Allied forces could consolidate. American paratroopers at Biaza Ridge established defensive positions utilizing terrain features, stone walls, olive groves, and farm buildings. Their heavy weapons consisted of 30 caliber machine guns, 60 mm mortar, a few 75 mm packed howitzers, and M1 Bazooka teams, with improved M6A1 rockets offering slightly better penetration than original M6 ammunition. The engagement lasted several hours. According to 82nd Airborne after-action reports, bazooka teams engaged German tanks from concealed positions, targeting side and rear armor where penetration was more reliable. Not all hits achieved kill. Some rockets deflected or caused insufficient damage, but the combination of artillery and defensive positioning prevented German breakthrough. Afternoon reinforcements from the beach, including M4 Sherman tanks, reached the paratroopers, enabling them to hold positions. German forces captured intact M1 bazookas from multiple sources during 1942 to 1943. American units in Tunisia, Soviet forces on the Eastern Front who had received bazookas through Lend-Lease, and potentially from North African battlefields. According to German intelligence records, captured weapons were sent to weapons proving grounds for technical analysis. German engineers systematically evaluated the bazooka's design, tube construction, rocket motor propellant, shaped charge warhead, electrical ignition system, and tactical employment doctrine based on captured training materials and interrogation of prisoners. The assessment concluded that Americans had achieved a significant innovation in portable anti-tank weapons. German weapons development programs had been pursuing similar objectives. The Panzerfaust developed 1940 to 1943 was a disposable single-shot weapon using a different technical approach, a recoilless launch system rather than a rocket motor. The Panzerbuchewuschisu, also called Panzerschreck, was developed specifically in response to captured bazookas, incorporating improvements based on German technical analysis. The Reketempanzerbuches, Uschisi, commonly called Panzerschreck, tank Tira, entered production in 1943 following German analysis of captured American bazookas. According to German development records, the weapon incorporated significant modifications intended to improve on the American design. Technical specifications of the Panzerschreck included 88 mm caliber versus 60 mm for the bazooka, overall length 164 cm versus 137 cm for M1, weight approximately 11 kg unloaded versus 6 kg for M1, and magneto-ignition system eliminating battery dependency. The larger warhead provided approximately 100 mm armor, penetrations significantly exceeding the bazooka's 60 mm capability. However, the larger rocket motor produced extensive backblasts that continued burning after leaving the tube. Operators required protective equipment, face shields, and heavy ponchos to prevent burns. A blast shield was added to the launcher to protect the gunner's face. These requirements made the Panzerschreck more cumbersome than the American weapon. The fact that Germany, which typically led in weapons technology, copied an American weapon design was strategically significant. German military technology was generally considered superior to Allied equivalents Tiger tanks, Me-262 jets, etc. The decision to copy the bazooka represented acknowledgement that American designers had solved a problem German engineers had not adequately addressed. By D-Day, June 6, 1944, the M1 Bazooka had been superseded by the improved M9 launcher. According to Army organizational tables, each rifle company in standard infantry divisions was authorized multiple bazooka teams. Soldiers had received extensive training on employment doctrine. The M9 launcher incorporated improvements: magneto-ignition system, eliminating battery problems, improved sights, and better construction for durability. The M6A3 rocket ammunition improved penetration to approximately 100 mm 4 inches of armor sufficient against most German medium tanks when striking side or rear armor. Normandy's bocage terrain and hedgerows, consisting of earthen banks 1 to 2 meters high, topped with dense vegetation, proved ideal for bazooka ambush. According to tactical manuals, recommended employment called for positioning teams in hedgerows, overlooking narrow lanes, engaging tanks from side or rear, using multiple teams to ensure hits, and coordinating with infantry to suppress accompanying enemy infantry. German armored forces found bocage operations extremely difficult. Visibility was limited to 50 to 100 meters. Every field entrance represented a potential ambush site. Tank commanders who maintained situational awareness by riding with hatches open exposed themselves to sniper fire. Commanders who remained buttoned up had severely reduced visibility. According to German after-action reports, fear of bazooka ambush significantly slowed armored operations in Normandy. Multiple American soldiers received the Medal of Honor for actions involving bazooka, demonstrating both the weapon's tactical significance and the courage required for its employment. Bazooka teams had to operate within 100 to 200 yards of target swell within range of tank machine, guns, and main armament. Technical Sergeant Van T. Barfoot 45th Infantry Division received the Medal of Honor for actions near Carano, Italy, on May 23, 1944. According to his citation, Barfoot engaged 3 German Mark VI Tiger I tanks with a bazooka, disabling the lead vehicle's track at approximately 75 yards range. He subsequently killed 3 crew members attempting to escape, destroyed a German artillery piece, and evacuated 2 wounded soldiers while under fire. Barfoot survived the war and died in 2012. Staff Sergeant Isidore S. Jacquemin, 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 17th Airborne Division received the Medal of Honor posthumously for actions near Flamier, Belgium, on January 4, 1945, during the Battle of the Bulge. According to his citation, when German tanks attacked his company, Jacquemin retrieved a bazooka and charged the tanks across open ground under fire. He successfully engaged 1 tank before being mortally wounded. Jacquemin was one of 3 Jewish American soldiers to receive the Medal of Honor during World War II. These actions illustrated the tactical reality of bazooka employment. The weapon enabled infantry to engage armor, but required soldiers to expose themselves to extreme danger. Casualties among bazooka teams were disproportionately high relative to other infantry specialties. American industrial production of bazookas during World War II represented a massive manufacturing effort. According to Ordnance Department records, total production included 476,628 launchers of all models M1, M1A1, M9, M9A1, and more than 15 million rockets. M6A1, M6A3 variants. Production involved multiple manufacturers: General Electric primary contractor for initial production, Cheney Bigelow Wire Works secondary contractor, and Conductrin Corporation ammunition production. Peak monthly production exceeded 40,000 launchers during 1944. Distribution through Lend-Lease and military aid programs was extensive. Free French forces received approximately 11,000 launchers. United Kingdom received several thousand, with approximately 1,500 redistributed to French resistance. Soviet Union received 3,000 launchers. Brazil received approximately 2,900. China received approximately 2,000. And Canada received approximately 170 launchers plus ammunition. The weapons distribution reflected its perceived value. American military planners considered the bazooka sufficiently important to allocate production to Allied forces, despite ongoing demand for U.S. Army and Marine Corps units. This contrasted with some other weapons such as the M1 Garand rifle, which were restricted primarily to American forces. The original 60mm M1 M9 bazooka proved inadequate when American forces encountered Soviet-supplied T-34-85 tanks during the Korean War 1952-1953. According to Army records, the M6A3 rocket could not reliably penetrate T3 for frontal armor 90mm thickness at 60° slope, approximately 180mm effective thickness. The M20 Super Bazooka was rushed into production with 89mm caliber 3.5-inch, using technology from the German Panzer. The M20 specifications included overall length 60 inches, weight 14.3 pounds, effective range 300 yards, and the M28A2 rocket with approximately 280mm penetration, capability sufficient to defeat T-34 armor. According to combat reports from Korea, the M20 restored infantry and a tank capability against medium tanks. However, the weapon's size and weight made it cumbersome. Post-Korean War development focused on guided anti-tank missiles, M47 BHMA 71 TOW FGM-148. Javelin that offered longer range and improved penetration, the fundamental principle established by Skinner and Uhl in 1942, that individual soldiers could carry weapons capable of destroying armored vehicles remained central to infantry doctrine. Modern portable anti-tank weapons trace their conceptual lineage directly to the M1 Bazooka. The introduction of portable rocket launchers fundamentally altered infantry armor tactical dynamics. Prior to 1942, according to military doctrine, infantry forces had three options when encountering tanks: retreat, attempt close assault with extremely high casualties, or rely on supporting anti-tank guns, which were not always available. The bazooka enabled infantry to engage armor offensively from concealed positions, defend prepared positions against armored attack without requiring towed anti-tank guns, and operate in terrain urban areas, dense vegetation, broken ground, where towed guns could not easily maneuver. Psychological effects on armored forces were significant. According to German operational reports and post-war memoirs, tank crews experienced constant stress from the threat of ambush. Every building, hedge, ditch, or vegetation could conceal a soldier with a bazooka. Tank commanders who had operated with confidence in 1942 became cautious and hesitant by 1940 for 1945. This transformation affected combined arms doctrine. German tactical manuals by 1944 emphasized that armor should not operate without infantry support to clear potential bazooka positions. Advances that would have been conducted rapidly in 1942 required extensive reconnaissance and infantry screening by 1944. The tempo of armored operations decreased as the threat of infantry and anti-tank weapons increased. The strategic significance was that American industrial capacity not just in tanks and artillery, but in weapons enabling individual soldiers to fight armor proved decisive.